Today, we're going to flip the whole thing upside down. Let's play pretend and say that Mark didn't write his gospel first. Let's imagine that Matthew copied Mark. If this is true, then Mark becomes one of the strangest editors in ancient history. Because the moment you compare the two side by side, nothing about this idea makes sense. First problem, Matthew has a huge nativity story. Angels, dreams, a virgin birth, wise men, Herod, a star, a massacre, a rescue mission to Egypt. It's dramatic in every direction. If Mark was copying Matthew, why would he delete all of that? Mark starts with Jesus as a grown man. He just walks onto the stage. No birth story, no origin, no backstory, no writer's cuts. What writer would cut the most cinematic material? Unless he never saw it in the first place. Second problem, Matthew gives us this full genealogy going from Abraham to King David, then to Joseph. This would have mattered a lot in the Jewish culture. Matthew goes out of his way to place Jesus inside Israel's story. If Mark had Matthew in front of him, why would he erase the genealogy? That would be like deleting the character's backstory that ties the whole plot together. It only makes sense if Mark never read it. Third problem, Matthew gives long teaching sections, whole chapters of material. The Sermon on the Mount alone in 3 chapters. These are the most famous teachings in Christian history. Mark has none of it. If he copied Matthew, why does he take out the best lines? I would argue that writers would expand the story. Why would they shrink them and remove the same lines that would end up making that character famous? Fourth problem, the resurrection scenes. And this is super important. Matthew ends with appearances of Jesus, a gathering on a mountain and the Great Commission. Mark's oldest ending stops with the ladies running away from the tomb in fear. If Matthew came before Mark, that means that Mark looked at that glorious reappearance of Jesus and said, no, I don't think that one makes the cut. Let's end mind with fear and confusion. Nobody works this way. Shorter endings come first, longer endings come later. Fifth problem, Matthew adds Old Testament fulfillment verses all throughout his gospel. Mark has almost none of these. Which direction makes more sense? A later writer adding theological commentary to an earlier story, or an earlier writer removing every layer of a story he supposedly saw? When you flip the order around and pretend that Mark copied Matthew, the entire thing falls apart. Mark would have to be a deliberate cutter of everything important. He would be throwing away miracles, teachings, prophecy, and a dramatic opening to the whole entire story. I don't think this is how ancient writing works. Expansion goes forwards, not backwards. Y'all drop down in the comments. Tell me what you think.